Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and a lot of sites already have pre-orders posted for Ravnica Allegiance because it's coming out in, just over a week. So I thought it would be really interesting to look at what they, the single sellers, think the prices are going to be. Now, by the way, my advice and the advice of anybody who knows what they're talking about is, for the top 10 most expensive, maybe even top 25, don't order them now. There's like a 95% chance that the price will go down. They start very optimistically on a lot of these cards. Now, some of them go up, like Jace and probably Teferi, maybe Karn, I think, went up. I think Rekindling Phoenix probably only launched around 15 or 20 and then it hit like 35. So, hyper popularity will put it high and you might be able to snake a good deal. But like literally the other 95% of the time, the price will just absolutely tank. I mean, usually to 50% or lower. Now, a $4 Mythic doesn't have much lower to drop, but like I said, this video is about the top 10 most expensive. So I would not recommend ordering any of these. Or, well, pre-ordering, at least, at these prices. Oh, by the way, I'm using Card Kingdom's pre-order prices because they're really big. So at first place, coming in at $23, we've got Prime Speaker Vanaf. Now, 23 is pretty darn high for a pre-order, but they have pretty good reason to be confident in this. So she is an Elf Ooze Wizard. So you never know with that. She's Simic colors, costs 4, and she's a 2/4, so nothing special, except that you can tap her for no mana, but you also have to sacrifice another creature as part of the cost, and then search your library for a creature card with a converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. So in other words, 1 bigger on the mana cost scale, and then you just put it directly onto the battlefield, then shuffle your libraries. So activates ability only time you cast a sorcery, otherwise it would be broken as hell. Every time they target something at instant speed, you could just sack it. That would be outrageous. Kind of like my deck that runs Costly Plunder. Yeah, that card's instant speed. Anyway, this just resembles something that is hyper popular in like a whole bunch of other formats. I'm not even going to name them individually because I'm not even sure myself. Pretty sure Modern has something like this. I know Commander does. You not only get potentially a death trigger, you can maybe bring the creature back from the graveyard or benefit from it being in the graveyard. Then you get the ETB effect, the enter the battlefield effect of whatever you go get, and also it's bigger. And also it's a free tutor. You don't just like go through your deck one card at a time and the first qualifying card that you hit, that's what you're stuck with. Not at all. So we don't really know if this will do anything great in Standard. I mean, it's a Mythic. It's probably important. They probably designed and intended something very specific to happen. But we don't know. And if this doesn't take off in Standard, it's only going to have other formats to prop it up. And then I think it'll be like maybe a $5 to $8 card. But if you can do some wacky, crazy crap with this, especially in a Simic deck, this thing will very well be $23, if not more. So good call there, but they're being very, conservative in not giving them away for too cheap of a price. I think that price is kind of high. Next up in the number 2 spot for $18, we've got Spawn of Mayhem. Another 4 cost, but this one's a 4/4, and it's flying and trample. It even has a spectacle cost of 3, but 2 of those are black. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. Then if you have 10 or less life, put a 1/1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem. So just go out there and trigger Spectacle. This is quite simply the best Spectacle enabler in the entire set, as far as I can determine. Plus 4 damage in the air with trample, very good. And then that last ability, if you're losing the game, kind of automatically turn it around. Just top deck nothing but lands. Cool, he'll get bigger, maybe he'll win. It's a long shot, but it's nice, especially if you're getting hit by a Lyra over and over and over. Eventually you'll just be too big to get swung upon, and that's kind of the point. So I feel like 18's a little high, but anything below 10 I think would be a little bit low, so we'll see. Next up in third place at $17. Okay, $16.99, but I'm rounding all these, just FYI. Angel of Grace. It's Angelic Grace, the card. Or pardon me, Angel's Grace. I love that card. So it's flash flying. When it enters the battlefield, you can't be reduced below 1 life, so basically you kind of can't lose the game, at least not due to damage or life loss. And then if you pay 6, while she's in your graveyard, your life total becomes 10, and you exile her. So that's a nice little emergency method. Like I said in the last video, it's not as good as it looks, but she is a 5 damage flying, flashed, so basically pseudo haste, just flash it in at your opponent's end step for 5 mana. So that's already just damn good. Oh, and then also those 2 fun little tricks. So she's just like a utility angel, but I honestly think that doesn't all add up to $17. I know standard, I haven't been following anything else, so maybe this just goes right into some famous deck that people are going to play, but at 5 mana, I kind of doubt it. But who knows, so that might be what's propping up the price. Otherwise, I still feel like this is kind of a gimmick, and you wouldn't really run a whole lot more than 1 or 2 in a deck because they're so damn expensive. It's also a 5-cost Angel without lifelink. I mean, and it's kind of like pessimistic. Like, you have to put this in your deck assuming that you might lose, which, I mean, of course you could. But nobody wants to admit that and plan for that case in their deck. So next up in 4th place, although it's technically tied for 3rd because it's also $17, we've got Domri, Chaosbringer. No surprise here because he's a 4-cost, 5 loyalty Planeswalker. They are really making up for the other Domri, like the original one. He was terrible, and honestly the one for the Planeswalker deck is a little sketch too. So he already is insanely difficult to kill with his 5, and then if you +1 him, boom, he's going to come out with 6 loyalty. You can't just do 6 damage arbitrarily to something. Not usually. So then his +1 is just add mana, cast a creature with it. Like, of course you're going to do that, and it gains Riot. Like, another copy of Riot. So it ramps, and then you can put 2 counters on it if it already had Riot, or give it a counter and haste, or give it haste twice if you're an idiot. So that +1 is amazing, and then, good luck when you're obviously casting a creature, getting to Domri, and then he's already at 6, so, like, you're never going to kill this guy. And then his -3 is look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them and put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So it's just an artificial draw accelerator for creatures, and then you go back to +1ing them. So in case of emergency, you just get him down to 2, hope he doesn't die. Even if he does, cool, drop some creatures next turn, whatever. So that works perfectly with this +1. Then we got -8, which is very easy to get to. You get an emblem with at the beginning of each end step, yours and your opponent's. Create a 4/4 Trample Beast creature token. Holy crap. So $17, yeah, he definitely merits that power level. I mean, I think he might settle in at like 12 or 13, but the price could absolutely just tank if nobody's playing Gruul. I mean, this is amazing in Commander. He'd be crazy good in Brawl if anybody still played that, or if they added it to Arena. Don't know why they didn't. This is just such a crazy good Planeswalker, and it matches perfectly the deck it would go in. So you're going to get that ult off every single time unless he gets like Vraska's Contempted or Banefired or something. So do watch out for that crazy good pull. Next up in 5th place, we've got Dovan Grand Arbiter. Big surprise. By the way, I think like all these are mythics. So he's a 3-cost 3 loyal to Planeswalker, so he's going to come out early, which honestly, Azorius colors right now don't have a lot of real early game stuff. It's a lot of just, I don't care what you do in the first 3 turns, and then they just unleash control hell on you. So this would be kind of interesting. So +1 until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a loyalty counter on Dovan Grand Arbiter. So that's just hyper acceleration. So if you hit them with 1 creature, boom, he effectively gets a +2 because he activated this ability. If you hit him with a swarm of Thopters, you can get him +5, +6, +7, +8 very quickly, very realistically. Then his -1, which remember he comes out with 3, is create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, and then also you gain a life. Oh my gosh, so he's already taking the pressure off your life total by existing, because they have to maybe direct some damage at him instead, and then you get a Thopter out of it, so he can kind of defend himself at a basic level or get some kind of artifact synergy. Then we've got -7, which is pretty damn hard to get to, but it's just look at the top 10 cards of your library, put 3 of them in your hand, the rest on the bottom. So it's just like a super triple fetch that can, or almost like a tutor that can backfire. And I mean, you're not going to go 3 for 3 on the cards you want, so it's almost guaranteed to backfire, but 10 cards is 10 cards. So just early game stall, run 1 or 2 of these in the existing Teferi deck. I can't imagine why somebody wouldn't. People even put card in there just for the card draw. If you run 3 Planeswalkers in that deck, it's virtually unbeatable. There's just nothing you can do. They're going to have to ban something from it, but even just in like a blue splash white artifact deck, you could get some stuff going. I'm just saying, like this doesn't have to go in a Teferi deck. So I do think 15's a little high. I mean, I'd maybe put him at 10, but like I said, these pre-order prices are at a very high premium in case maybe some pro or some investor knows something they don't, so they just set them all high, and that's why you should really never pre-order these. I almost said pre-release. No, pull them at the pre-release. I don't care. Go for it. Next up in 6th place, we've got Kaia, Orzhov Usurper, I don't know. Who cares? So she is $13, and she's another 3 for 3 planeswalker. 3 loyalty, 3 cost. +1, exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard. You gain 2 life if at least 1 creature card was exiled this way. So she kind of wants to target creatures, but she could get rid of Jumpstart. And, you could gain 2 life per turn just by doing this, which is, just good. I mean, people are like, oh, that's kind of crap for a planeswalker. It costs 3 to get her out. Not 5, not 6, not 7, 3. You get what you pay for, okay? They aren't going to just ignore that it's 3 for 3 and give her, Karn's abilities. They're just not going to do that. -1, though, exile target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less. So just nuke any token, basically. You might luck out with some 1 cost. Why are you even getting rid of it? It's basically just 0 cost. So clones, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. A land that's been turned into a creature. I mean, there's some narrow cases, but whatever. It's just kind of nice. I mean, it's one of those, if you could get a good bang for your buck out of it, use it, otherwise ignore it. And then her -5, which is damn easy to get to when she basically enters battlefield with 4, because you're going to +1 her. She deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile, and you gain that much life. So you almost wouldn't light that off until you're at 6 loyalty from activating the +1 enough times. Now remember, Ixalan's Binding and that Conclave spell are a thing, and their card is technically held in exile, so there is a little bit of synergy you can get with this that you would naturally expect to put in a deck with her in it. So everything on the card is completely conditional, and her ult doesn't even work that well, but she's just a life gain engine and a punching bag to take the pressure off of your life total. So I think, once again, 13's a little high, you never know, but she's still, pretty good. Next up in 7th place, unless I've lost count, which is actually pretty likely, we've got Skarga Al Qaeda at $12. This one's kind of surprising. It has Riot. It's a 5-cost 4/4 flyer, so it might come out as a 5/5 if you don't want it to have haste. And then you can pay 4, and it's not even a tap ability, it's just an ability. It deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets, and then activate this only if it has a 1/1 counter on it. So basically, you're not bringing this out with haste. So it's a 5/5 generic vanilla flyer, whatever, cool. But then also, you can just dump 4 into it and blast something. Not something very big, but he is a bit of a planeswalker killer, plus, hello, he flies too. But he will disrupt combat too, because if people know that in the middle of combat, after it, before it, whatever, you could do 2 damage to something, now all of a sudden them blocking your 3/3 with their 5/5 doesn't look so good, and that is very significant. And also they have to focus on stopping this too. So, I mean, will this go into Red Rush? Hell no, it costs 5. I mean, why would it? But will it go in a Sarkhan's Unsealing deck? Oh yeah, why would it not? So I think $12 is gambling pretty hard on this being popular, but like I said, it's not gambling. They always win. You lose if the price goes down. So this is really good. It's a fun, but expensive recurring ability, but there's some decks I would already see this in. So yeah, I could see it being kind of high. All right, I recounted and we are indeed at 8th place. We've got Hydroid Crisis for $11, another mythic. So this is the Jellyfish Hydra Beast, because that's awesome. And it has Simic colors as the base plus X, so 2 plus X. And whenever you cast a spell, you gain half of X life and draw half of X cards rounded down. So you can bring them out fun size and whatever, just get a card off them, or you could just dump mountains of mana and just refill your whole hand, reverse the entire game, and stall them out for 2 more turns. Also Flying Trample, so any amount of counters put on this thing are pretty damn good. Oh, and also it enters battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. I don't know why that's last. That seems kind of odd. In fact, you physically have to put the counters on it before that ability goes on the stack, or I should say before you start resolving that ability on the stack. So that's odd, but yeah, I mean, it's another Flying Trampler. It's just, it costs way more than that demon, but is this a good win con? Yeah, I guess. It doesn't have hexproof or anything, but it is flying. So if you had 10 mana, yeah, put it into this. Oh, and then by the way, you gain 4 life and draw 4 cards. So even if they blow up your big flying win con that you paid way the hell too much for, you got a bunch of backup cards, plus the cards will probably help protect this. I mean, you probably maxed out your mana, but, assuming they don't blow it up in the gap, this thing ain't going anywhere. So it's just good. I think this is one of the ones where I'm like, yeah, $11, that seems about right. If anything, it's a little bit low. All right, next up in 9th place, Seraph of the Scales. It is also $11, so technically it's a tie for 8th place, but whatever. So it's a 4/3 for 4 Flying Angel, so that's cool. And it has pay 1 white, it gains vigilance, pay 1 black, it gains death touch. So that's just a lot of low cost threats. If you even have 1 untapped land, your opponent knows they might be looking at that. And granting it vigilance every single turn would be pretty wise. I mean, it is a 4/3 and it's flying. Would you really block with it? But it's just nice. You never know. If they've got a 2/2, cool. It's not coming through. It also has Afterlife 2, so if they do blow it up, you get 2 spirits out of it. So you go from 4 attack in the air to 2, unless you can boost them. And that's kind of nice. I mean, it's not quite like Eternalize or Afterlife or just like a full-blown kill it twice effect, but its damage output is equal to its mana cost and it's in the air, so that's always huge. And like I said, that Death Touch threat, that could kill anything, even a Carnage Tyrant, so the threat is always there. I still don't think this is that good of a card. Like, it's pretty good, but it doesn't really do anything. It just kind of stands there and is a big thing that does tricks. Like, unless you're going Angel Tribal or something, it just kind of is what it is, and if it has 0 synergy, it just can't go in that many decks. So I think 11's real high, so it definitely deserves 9th place compared to the absolute monster that is Hydroid Crisis. And finally, in 10th place, we've actually got a 3-way tie, but 2 of them are the Shocklands, so big surprise, $10 a piece. Oh, it's the Simic one and the Gruul one, believe it or not. I don't know if that's more to do with their current prices due to other formats, or if they just think Simic and Gruul will be the decks that people are playing in Standard. So the non-land card that came in at 10th place at $10 is Electro Dominance, believe it or not. So this is actually a rare, it's actually not a mythic. So this is a red plus X instant where it deals X damage to any target, the player, planeswalker, or creature. You may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So this is like full-blown, what was that? Kaladesh mechanic. I think that was the one with all the free casting. And those were popular, so, I mean, getting the bonus spell out of it while also roasting your opponent, I mean, putting all your mana into one thing and then getting a free spell out of it that's roughly equivalent, that ain't no joke. This could be a finisher. I mean, it's just as much of a threat as Banefire, except that it can be countered. I mean, I could see why this is 10. I mean, I feel like it might settle at like closer to 7 or 8, but it's, 10 is not outrageous for this card. In a red mana generation heavy deck or a Gruul deck, this could be an absolute finisher. It's also a Planeswalker killer, which Gruul doesn't really directly have. They do, I think, have a new Force Fight card that can take down a Planeswalker. That's pretty cool. It's basically just Rabid Bite, except it can hit a Planeswalker, which is crazy. So adding this to it, yeah, they don't have to fear Planeswalkers, but then again, they've got giant creatures, most of which are huge or have trample. So, like, do they really need it? But I mean, if you're going to finish somebody off, do it. Like, going all in creature is not a great idea. If you're going to sit there and ramp up and stuff with a little bit of green ramp instead of just let's dump creatures rar, this would be a good back end in case you get board wiped or settled. So that's it for the top 10 most expensive. As you might have assumed, as we go down, it's just a bunch more mythics and a bunch of lands pretty much. But it falls off a cliff really quick. Like if you go to like, I think the 17th place or something, you're already at $6 and it's Biogenic Ooze, which that card is crazy. So honestly, Allegiance isn't looking that great price-wise. So do be aware of that. I would definitely lean towards just buying singles with this set. It just looks like pull a mythic or land or don't. Like you'll just automatically lose almost past that. And that's never good or healthy, so I think the price is going to crash pretty soon on these. So, like I said, maybe pick up singles instead of sealed. But, whatever. If you like opening boosters, like, do whatever you want. It's not the end of the world. So, thanks for watching. I can't wait to see what develops in the standard meta, and I'll see you guys next video.